Hey guys, it's Josiah here. Welcome back to another episode of Grape. Today we'll be recapping the championship race. The championship races that happened this weekend. Obviously, first before I mention the championship races, I do want to give my thoughts and condolences and prayers to the entire Joggers racing industry, as obviously it was announced earlier this morning that Coy Gibbs, the father of Ty Gibbs, he passed away tragically in his sleep at the age of 49. Just hours after his son Ty Gibbs won his first championship in the Xfinity Series. So my thoughts are with Joe, Ty, and the rest of the Joggers racing industry. So that really just sucked. I mean, his son just won a championship, and then he passed away in his sleep. It's just unfortunate, but I just want to point that out. So anyway, now let's start with the Truck Series Championship. Zane Smith won the pole, and he was pretty much the class of the field. I mean, he swept the stages, was very dominant. And remained that way till about the last couple of laps. Raja Caruth and Christian Eckes both spun around two different cautions, very similarly. They kind of spun around in turn 2, back into the wall and all that stuff. But then the other Championship 4 drivers, Majeski, Rhodes, and Chandler Smith, got up there. Ben Rhodes had been solidly inside the top 10, just hadn't really had the good car, as good of a truck. I keep saying, I remember this is Truck Series, not the car, but he had a solid truck in top 10, but didn't really have a championship caliber truck underneath him. Same with Ty Majeski. He got up inside the top 5, but he was there. He just couldn't do anything. Same with Chandler. Chandler Smith was basically Zane Smith's only competitor. And then with 3 laps to go, it was actually looking like Ben Rhodes was going to go back-to-back championships until Ty Majeski, who was trying to get around Zane Smith for second. He went in too deep, he spun it around, and eventually ended Ty Majeski's championship hopes. So I was disappointed. But the caution came out just before 2 laps to go, and the restart was between Chandler Smith, Zane Smith, and Ben Rhodes. It was crazy. Zane Smith got a lead, then Chandler Smith was side by side with him with 1 lap to go. Zane Smith cleared him. Ben Rhodes tried to get into Zane Smith, didn't quite happen. Zane Smith is the 2022 NASCAR Truck Series Championship, with Rhodes in second, Chandler Smith in third, and I can't remember where Majeski was, I think 20th or something, so unfortunate for him. But congrats to Zane Smith on winning the 2022 Truck Series Championship after coming so close 2 years in a row after he was second in 2020 to Sheldon Creed, second last year after Ben Rhodes passed him late, and now he finally wins it, so good job for him. Now let's move on to the Xfinity Series. That shouldn't take long. I mentioned this with Noah Gragson after Gragson unfortunately lost yesterday. I mentioned Ty Gibbs won the championship, so congrats to him. Again, Gragson got second. Allgaier got third. I think Barry, like I mentioned on the restart, he went up the racetrack. It got loose. Then it got up into the wall. I think he fell and finished, I don't know where, 13th or something. So very unfortunate for him. But again, congrats to Ty Gibbs. And I know he wasn't, because it was announced that Ty Gibbs would not be racing today in the Cup Series because of a family emergency. And now we know why. It's because of Coy Gibbs. But at least his father got to see him win a championship before he died, but that was unfortunate. But still, congrats to Ty Gibbs on winning the Xfinity Series Championship. I believe the wrecks that happened, Brandon Brown spun around. There was a big wreck caused by, I think, Ryan Sieg and I think Sammy Smith. Nick Sanchez, they had some pretty solid runs. Sammy Smith and Nick Sanchez both ran inside of the top 5 pretty much for portions of the race, but they got caught up in crashes, so it was unfortunate for them. I know the Eric Estep car, Brennan Poole, I think it got damaged as well, but it did end up on the thumbnail for the NASCAR Fox House for the Xfinity Series, so good job by Eric Estep moving up in the rankings and all that stuff. But again, congrats to Ty Gibbs on winning the Xfinity Series Championship. Now let's talk about today's race, the Cup Series Championship. Oh, by the way, Ty Gibbs won the pole for that race and swept the stage and won the race. And Joey Logano started on a pole for this race, and he legit was pretty much unbeaten the entire race. It was just the Joey Logano show. He won stage 1 dominant fashion. His teammate Ryan Blaney got by him, and he actually won stage 2 as people were trying to save fuel. Chase Elliott made an initial strategy. He came in from 8th. Chase Elliott started in this race 5th and then fell back and didn't really have the car he felt like to win the championship. So he pitted and he was the second faster and got all the way around and lapped himself and got back up to 13th. Logano, Chastain was using no shifting whatsoever to try to save fuel, and Bell was struggling a little bit because Bell and Chastain both started outside, I think, the top 15, so they had to work their ways up, but they did inside the top 10, both of them. But Blaney won stage 2, and pit stops happened before the stage began, And the big winner was Chase Elliott, who gained 6 spots. And Logano, I think, lost 1. I think Bell and Chastain both lost them as well. And then I think there was a caution for, I think it was Ricky. Oh, no, that was in stage 2. Rick Stown spun around stage 2. And I think the green flag dropped. I think there was another caution, but I can't remember what the caution was for. I can't remember. Maybe there was a caution, one more caution, or maybe it was before the I don't know. I know one caution that happened, though, and it was the caution that many people are going to talk about. An incident that happened with Championship 4 driver Chase Elliott and another Championship 4 driver, Ross Chastain. So, I think it was either the restart beginning stage 3 or a caution happened after, but I can't remember what the caution was, so I don't know if there was one before this incident happened. But Chase Elliott, who was actually getting it, I remember now. I think there was a big crash that happened. I think there was I can't remember now. McDowell spun, and I think someone else spun as well. I think it was Landon Castle who spun around and collected McDowell. And then Chase Elliott was actually ahead of Logano. This was the only time in the race, spoiler, that Logano was losing a Championship 4 driver. It was one grid fit lap that he was losing a Championship 4 driver. So, very dominant day for Joe Logano. But Chase Elliott restarted 5th. Chastain restarted behind him. And the grid fight dropped. And Chastain and Elliott both went to the bottom. But Chastain turned sooner. Chastain didn't lift. Elliott kept going. And eventually they collided. Chase Elliott spun around. Made heavy contact on the passenger side. And they got it repaired. But he finished this race 2 laps down in 28th. And as a Chase Elliott fan, we had such a good season. 5 wins this season. But did absolutely nothing in the playoffs. Three top 10s in the playoffs. All just a bad playoffs. What could have been? He probably was the closest competitor at that time to Joey Logano. He was the only one that was able to beat Logano at one point. So he probably could have challenged him if not this incident for Chastain. But it's unfortunate, man. As for whose fault it was, I don't know. It looks so similar to Carl Edwards and Joey Logano in 2016, where they got together and Edwards tried to block and Logano didn't lift. People were blaming Edwards then. I think they're blaming Elliott, and I don't know. I wouldn't be too shocked. I don't know. You could go either way. You can go either way for Edwards and Logano. You could go either way for Chastain and Elliott, but it's somewhere in between. I don't know. Chastain not lifting. I feel like Elliott probably could have cut him some slack, and same with Chat. I don't know. It's hard to tell. It is hard to tell. You could go either way, but that ended basically Chase Elliott's championship hopes, unfortunately. So it's just down between Joey Logano, Christopher Bell, and Ross Chastain. And I think Ross Chastain had issues on the pit stop, or one of the pit stops. I think it was green flag pit stops. Chastain was the closest competitor to Logano, but then he had a bad pit stop, and it kind of took him out of the championship for a while. And Bell had a good pit stop, and he was able to catch up to Logano, but he couldn't quite pass him. And I think a caution came out with 40 laps to go because I don't know what the frick happened. Michael McDowell just straight up dumped Alex Bowman, who was returning after missing the last 5 races due to a concussion. Just dumped him. I don't know what happened there, but that brought out the caution. And then pit stops happened for the final time this season. Logano and Chastain both had good pit stops, but it was the 20 team of Christopher Bell that had a bad pit stop. He fell, I think, outside the top 10, and that would eventually cost him the championship. So now it was just between Joe Logano and Ross Chastain for the final 30 laps to duke it out. And on the front row was Chase Briscoe and Ryan Blaney. Chase Briscoe was trying to go back-to-back this season at Phoenix, and Ryan Blaney was trying to become the 20th winner of the season and get himself a win and not be winless this season. Logano quickly got by both of them, and Chastain had some issues. Eventually, Chastain got up to 3rd, about a little under a second and a half to Logano. Blaney was 2nd, but it was just too much for Chastain. Couldn't get there. He was faster than Logano toward the end, but it just wasn't enough. Check flag flew, and Joey Logano was their 2022 NASCAR Cup Series champion. He gets his 2nd championship. Yeah, congrats to him. That's his 4th one of the season. And again, it continues the theme from 2014 to 2022 since we started this bracket playoff format-ish type thing. The winner of the race has been the champion, and it was looking like that this year was not going to happen because I think Logano and Bell were duking out for like 5th. So if the caution had to come out, streak probably would have ended. But no, it was Logano who won the race and the championship. So congrats to him. Blaney came home 2nd. Chastain came up short in 3rd. I think Bell is credited with a 10th place finish, so unfortunate for him. And I think, like I mentioned, Elliott 2 laps down, 28th. So very unfortunate for him. So there was that. Kyle Busch finished 7th in his final race in JGR. Going to be the end of an era, man. It's going to be weird seeing him in the 8 car next year. I think it's the 8 car. I think he had an 8 car next year because I know Reddick's leaving to go to 2311. Still undecided what number he's going in. It was announced also that Jimmy Johnson would be co-owner for Petty GMS, and he would run select races for Petty GMS and try and tip the 2023 Daytona 500. So that's cool to see right there. Good to see Johnson back. So there was that, but yeah, congratulations to Zane Smith who won the Truck Series Championship, Ty Gibbs who won the Xfinity Championship, and Joey Logano for winning the Cup Championship. Of course, he won his first championship in 2018. He won it here in 2022. Again, both those seasons, he wasn't really the best. Like in 2018, it was obviously the big three, him and the big three in Championship 4 with Harvick, Busch, and Truex, but it was Logano who came back from behind. And even in this one, Chase Elliott was definitely the best, most consistent driver, at least this season. Just didn't have a good playoffs, but it was Logano. Came up, rose to the occasion, and took the win. So, congrats again to Logano and Gibbs and Zane Smith and all that. But that is the end of the 2022 season. It was a very wild season. You had 19 different winners. Crazy, crazy season. I mean, a lot of people won. From Elliott to Chris Buescher gaining wins. It was crazy, crazy season. We thought last year was crazy with all the different winners. It was even crazier with even more different winners this season. And whatnot. We almost had 16 different winners before the playoffs, which would have been huge, but didn't quite happen. But that is it for the 2022 NASCAR Cup Series season. Obviously, like I mentioned, big one, big season, great season. It's going to be a memorable season. We'll look back on it as one of the best seasons, probably in NASCAR history, at least for the 21st century. I don't know about the all-time. Probably is, I don't know. But there's all that, and yeah, that's going to be it for Josiah's Grape reviews. Hope you guys enjoy it. Smash like, subscribe, and all that stuff if you want to. I know that's Cloud. Just do it as a suggestion. But I'll try and post maybe some more Josiah's Grape reviews during the off-season. We'll see. Maybe not. I don't know. Again, I'm trying to come back to YouTube and whatnot and all that stuff. But, so, all right. So, yeah. One more congratulations to the champions, Logano, Gibbs, and Zane Smith and all that. And I'll see you guys whenever the next video comes out. I don't know what it'll be, but I'll see you guys whenever I upload again. See you guys. Bye.